This is Python's Paradise. This is your host, Greg Gilbert, aka the Python Hyena, straight out of Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. Here on June 2nd. Happy birthday to my younger brother, Andrew, aka my manager. And, but I got also a very special guest today because, well, I got a musician on my shirt, Chantal Kraviazik, and I wore her special today because, well, she kind of puts me in mind of my guest today. I have Strictly Elizabeth or Strictly Jessica Elizabeth Davenport. How do you do, Jessica?
Hi, thanks for having me on today.
Love your outfit.
Thank you.
Yeah. You're not wearing a Chantal Kraviazik like me?
Not today.
No, you kind of put me in mind of her. You write your own stuff and you're creative that way, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that's a fair comparison. So do you know where I'm located here in New Brunswick, Canada?
Uh, I think I've seen it on a map.
That's what
You
they
could tell
all.
me about it.
I'm 4 hours ahead of you. So you're late into your morning. I'm mid into my afternoon. I've already done part of my day job already today. And then I gotta go back and do more this evening. So I've worked through the entire pandemic. How are things with the pandemic right now in Los Angeles?
It's been interesting. Things are really starting to open up, especially in California. The big day is June 15th, where they're gonna lift all the regulations. So we'll see what happens then. But it seems like people are getting back to some new sense of normal. A little bit freer.
You got both your shots yet?
Yep, I'm fully vaccinated.
Okay, I got one. It didn't bother me at all. I don't know when I'm getting the second one. Did you have any after effect with it?
Not really. I was pretty okay with it, so I guess I'm lucky that way.
Okay, maybe I'll be lucky that way too. I want to travel this fall, so I figured, well, I better get it done. So anyway, yeah, you just attended. And I had this up here in Santa Monica. Um, Let me see. I got this up here too because Mike Gormley sent me the information on it. But you did attend. You can talk about it. The okay. You attended something in Santa Monica. Um,
Well, we had a release party
okay, a release
last
party.
week for the
I read about that on here, but I read about it last night, and I got called into work this morning just on the. I've been helping my supervisor, so you'll have to forgive me on that. But what was it like being able to attend an event? And were you nervous about it, or were people just happy to just maybe to get together and not worry about COVID and just put this behind them?
Oh, I wouldn't say that people were not worried, and it was a rooftop event, so
Hmm.
um, that was good. So it was outdoor in that way, and but it was so great to see people and to be together. I think at first there was some apprehension about things, and eventually we kind of found a way to find a new normal, a new way to kind of be together and celebrate things. So yeah, it was a great night. What was interesting also was a lot of people that I've been working with and collaborating with over the past year in making the album that we were releasing, as well as the music videos. Some of them I'd only ever met on Zoom. So we'd been introduced and started working together, and I'd only ever seen them on video. So to see them in real life was very interesting. It's a little bit of a social experiment, but what was strange, it was like I had already knew them. I was like, oh, good to see you again. And then we both kind of realized, wait, we've never actually met in real life. It was interesting. Yeah, it was interesting. But really great. And just it was so awesome to be able to just celebrate with everyone and kind of move into this next phase of things.
I've had a lot of artists uh, be sent to me through Mike Gormley. I come in touch with him through an actress, Lisa Langlois, who has become a really good friend of mine, and through that he has sent me so many people. You're my first one I've had through him on Zoom, and I've had a good connection with guests he's sent me. I'm still in touch with a lot of them. And how did you come to be connected with Mike?
I met Mike through a composer's breakfast meeting that I went to in Los Angeles. So it was a meeting of um, composers, musicians, all sorts of creative people. And so that's how I first met Mike.
Okay. Well, you know what? Before we talk about your music, I want a little bit about your background, and how you come to be involved in music. Whether, was it something you were always passionate about? Was it something that trailed with you growing up? Give us your background on that.
Yeah, I always played music. It was always something important to me, and I think always a part of who I am, especially singing. It's something I just do. And so, kind of growing into the person that I am now, and learning music, learning how to sing, learning how to write, and most recently learning how to record and kind of all of the modern techniques in terms of recording and writing. It seems like a natural progression. I think maybe in these times of isolation, I've had maybe a little bit more time to really think deeply about who I am in all of this. But yeah, I can't really imagine my life without music in it somehow.
Do you have an instrument that you like playing most?
I really like singing.
Yeah. Is there any instrument you like playing, or just, or
Oh,
do you
other
just,
than that one,
yeah.
I would say, I started playing piano when I was really young, when I was about
Okay.
5. And so there's something really innate about that to me that I just enjoy, sitting and playing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Because I can't sing at all, so you got something on me. So, who are your musical influences growing up?
Hmm. I think they're probably all over the place. A lot of it had to do, probably mostly just with listening to the radio. That was my window to the world. My parents didn't really listen to a lot of modern music. Um, they were a few things, but in terms of what I grew into, I think being influenced by some major moments for me were the discovery of, for instance, Joni Mitchell. She really changed my world in terms of having a role model of someone who could be multidisciplined, knowing that she was both a painter and a singer and a songwriter, and just how incredibly introspective she was and unapologetic about it, and inventive and creative, and was able to kind of make the guitar her own. um, that was very, very inspiring to me, and still is.
So you go by the name Strictly Elizabeth. Why? Where'd that come from? And why Elizabeth? Because that's your middle name, huh?
It is my middle name. And Strictly Elizabeth isn't just me. It's a project. It's a band. And,
Okay.
I'm Jessica, but I wanted to put something together that was more than just me. And so in my mind, everybody that I collaborate with, everybody that I work with is part of Strictly Elizabeth. So it grows, it expands, but at the end of the day, I I guess I'm still at the center of it.
Okay. Well, I want to talk about what happened to Stephanie, because I watched this last night. I didn't realize. I thought it was like Mike Gormley made it sound like it was a short film, and he's right, but I didn't realize it was all music based. I got to admit, I was quite impressed with this. I enjoyed that watch. You have a great narrative going along with it. With you got a couple different women in there, and their male choices, and what directions they go in. Where did this project originate?
Well, I started storyboarding music videos about the time I kind of finished the album for Shelter in Place.
Mm-hmm.
And the very first music video we did, California Bend, I had storyboarded, and that was, you know, I knew nothing about making music videos or making videos at all, really. And so I learned a lot, and I was just kind of hooked. And so I started storyboarding all of the songs, and a narrative kind of started forming for me a little bit through that album. But one in particular was Baby Come On. And that one was the first, that's the second of the three songs. And that kind of is where that character Stephanie
Mm-hmm.
started to come to life. And then from there, um, I just kind of let my imagination run wild with it, and started, coming up with the rest of the stories for these other characters. And so Oscillation Friday was the next one that I wrote. That's the first one. And just understanding this character Liz and her relationship with Stephanie, and then some of the other male characters, you know started kind of coming to life in my mind. And the final one I wrote was Seduction Trash, but all after the songs had been written and recorded. So yeah, it was a long process.
It was beautifully animated. I gotta say that. What made you decide that this was gonna be an animated piece?
Well, a few things. I think that originally, when I was after we had made the California Bend video, and that's in real life, and realizing the amount of effort and work it takes to have a crew together and cameras, and um, I started thinking about something else, and I started thinking about the idea of doing animation. I kind of always liked there was a few growing up cartoons that I really liked. I don't know if you remember Gem and the Holograms.
I
I don't know
remember
if I
Gem and
should
the
bring that up,
Hologram.
but
I
I was
I
always a
didn't
big
go.
fan of it.
I didn't go to the movie, but I remember the cartoon.
And so I think maybe the the child in me, was kind of eager to explore some of these things. And I also started understanding some of the freedoms that doing things in animation would allow me to do, that, you know, just the production, value would be so much better in doing it in animation than I would ever be able to do in real life at this point. So uh you know and being able to kind of have the ability to be multiple characters at one time, because in some ways, male and female, all of those characters are in some ways still me, so that was kind of really cool. I don't think I really appreciated that till I really got into it and could start to see the possibilities for that. And so yeah, I started kind of exploring that, and was connected with Ciro, who did the animation, and he and I just worked really well together. He really was able to take what I started and run with it. I had really specific instructions and kind of directions about the storyboards, but in terms of the look and feel, he was really able to bring it to life in a way that surprised me too.
How
Yeah.
long did this process take to complete this?
Let's see. We started working on the very first Oscillation Friday. Probably, I guess in May, and we were done by October, so about 4 months.
Well, you got four songs in there that kind of join in like a medley, to form the story that's going on in this video. Um, what? How did you decide on joining these songs together for this particular to tell the story? Like, because I can imagine you get a lot to juggle in terms of the storyline and what song's going to go where and how many. How did you form that? Because kind of reminded me a bit of Pink Floyd The Wall in a way.
Absolutely. That's
Yeah.
very cool. Um, but yeah, so those songs were always kind of in that sequence in my mind. And in writing Baby Come On, Oscillation Friday was always the introduction to Baby Come On. In fact, I had thought about putting them as one track on the album, but we decided to separate them. So those two were very obvious and had kind of been conjoined for quite a while in my mind. And I guess when we were sequencing the album, Seduction Trash just made so much sense after Baby Come On. And then I think as part of that sequencing process, those three songs in particular started really living together in my mind. So that's kind of how that happened. And so, I think that was the seed maybe for putting this triptych of videos together. I started to see it as one continuous arc.
Talk about Coretta, because I watched the video for that as well. That was another one that Mike Gormley had mentioned, and I watched that video. Talk about this song and the inspiration behind it.
Well, Coretta's a single off my new album that just came out last week. It's
Hmm.
called Contemporary Construction, not to be confused with What Happened to Stephanie. But Coretta is a song about Coretta Scott King. And I started writing that song a while ago, I would say about 10 or 11 years ago. And it was, you know, something I kind of put down. I had started it and kind of put it on a shelf and was doing other things in my life. And when I came back to pick it up again, I had a whole experience of meeting a man, getting married, and then he died. And so the grief that was originally part of the song, the imagined grief, was very real then for me. So it was a really interesting process in terms of finishing that song, and I think it benefited me in a lot of ways that I probably couldn't have predicted. But um, you know, the video too, and the making of the video, I think really helped me understand what having a legacy of love with somebody really means, and to kind of find meaning in your life that goes beyond the grave.
Every artist has their methods and how they put their album together. Take us through your personal process when you're putting an album together. Do songs come to you fairly quickly? What inspires you in terms of your writing of your songs? Do you take from real experiences and follow that up with actually putting the album together?
Well, uh, it's kind of different every time, depending on a whole lot of circumstances and other things that are unpredictable. But I think my songwriting, it depends. Sometimes it's, and I think you'll hear this from a lot of people, but there are times where there's something that's just nagging at you, and you sit down and you write it, and it's kind of fully formed, and that's great when that happens, but it's usually the exception. The rule is a probably much more disciplined process. Um, and I think a desire to do it, you know. So I mean, a lot of things change depending on the tools you're using, and I've experimented a lot, you know, whether it's just sitting down at a keyboard and coming up with a progression and a melody or a guitar, or using, you know, a 4 track, or the, you know, infinite amount of possibilities that now exist with technology and computers. I mean, that's a whole nother set of tools to use. So I think when you get into all of that, it kind of depends. But, you know, generally speaking, I'd say I still always try to go back to the source in terms of, um, you know, just rhythm and melody, and and really trying to get to the core of what it is I'm trying to express in terms of emotion or feeling. You know, what is the message? What is it that I'm trying to tune into to be the medium for?
I want to know if you remember the first time you've ever sang in front of people, whether it be when you were really young or like have you always had that in you to perform in front of people? Like some people are not into getting in front of people. Of course, if you're in a performer, obviously gotta get in front of people. But do you remember that first time you did it?
Well, I mean, there's definitely been a few first times. um, if you're talking about when I was young, like, I don't know that I do actually, which is
Hmm.
interesting. But I'd always, it was always difficult for me. I had a lot of stage fright when I was really young.
How did you handle that?
Um, I don't know exactly. I mean, I think unfortunately when I was younger, it kept me from doing a lot of things that I probably otherwise would want to. Um, and I guess as I've gotten to know myself more, and I've gotten older, and, you know, been through a variety of experiences, uh, it get it gets easier. I think at some point, you know, the desire to do something out outshadows um the hesitance or whatever else is holding you back, you know.
Do you have a favorite place you like to perform?
Hmm. That's an interesting question. I guess my honest answer is no.
I always ask that to musicians I have on. I don't get to travel too much. Of course, a lot of people haven't been now, but I always ask that question to musicians. Sometimes the answer could from be a cultural thing or whatever. Is this a certain place they've always wanted to go? Is there any place you always wanted to go and perform, like a bucket list place?
Mm. Not that I really, you know, I don't know. I guess I feel private about those things for some reason at this point.
Okay, no problem, no problem. Okay, we'll talk about what's coming up because you've got Coretta and you've got your new album out. Are you planning a tour?
We are. It's a little, there's so much uncertainty about what's possible, and that's been the case for a while. So it's been an interesting process to get out there with this. But yeah, I'm definitely feeling the desire to get out there and perform. So
That's
in the
awesome.
works.
Well, I see your creativity. I've watched your videos. I've watched. I especially loved your short film, and I definitely think you have a creative mind. And I'm gonna follow that up with, do you have any charities that you wanna plug on here?
Well, there's a great organization, the video that I mentioned before,
Mhm.
California Bend. We worked with Groundswell Community Project, and they've been doing a lot in terms of pushing the boundaries for people dealing with trauma and what's possible in terms of mental health and healthcare. I think the work they're doing is amazing.
Okay. And plug your website.
No, it's strictlyelizabeth.com. Yeah.
Yeah. I was on there last night. I was on there and then I got called to work this morning. So, but I spent a late last night. I was on here and checking out your work. But I got to say, I was blown away by what happened with Stephanie. Mike Gormley said I would like it, but I didn't realize what I was in for when I saw that, and I watched the video for uh, Coretta, and I'm like, "You got a real creative mind, you know." So, do when you make a video, does it start like? Do you have like an image or an idea when you go to do a video, like something sparks about what you want to put on the screen?
Sure. Um, Sometimes a lot of sparks. Sometimes it's figuring out which one to follow. But yeah, yeah. There's definitely things that happen in your mind's eye. But usually, after listening for a while, what was interesting about making this last record was that a lot of times I would have these kind of flashes while we were in the recording process or mixing, even, and so I'd kind of jot them down. So that was interesting to kind of get a jump on things even then, and the seeds of some of the imagery that you see now, like for instance, the protest signs that kind of started happening even while we were recording the songs.
Yeah, I enjoy you kept picking them up and out they go. And you spent a lot of it under that veil thing as well, and I kinda I love that image as well, so,
That was a lot of research, just going through and learning more about Coretta Scott King. Like I said, when I came back to finish the song,
mhm.
I really kind of dug a little bit more into the research about her and found a whole host of amazing images. And one of them was her at the funeral of Martin Luther King and sitting there. And she was wearing this gorgeous veil. And it was just one very thin piece of material, like stretched around her face, just kind of keeping her separated from the rest of the world, and even the person sitting next to her. And I really related to that a lot, and it was so connected to my initial image at the very beginning of writing the song. So that was really powerful to me.
Do you have a favorite song that you've done? Like, one that just is you love all your songs, but which one are you proudest of? Do I dare ask that?
um Western Soul is pretty near and dear to my heart.
Why? Why is that one dear to your heart?
um It's hard to say exactly, but I think I wrote it in a way that was very different from the rest of my songs. And uh, I don't know, I'm just proud of it.
Well, you know what? It is great to see you out there. And when Mike said that you had done this public event to launch a record, I was like, finally, there might be a light at the end of the tunnel after being in isolation. Actually, I worked through the pandemic, but it's still what a pain in the butt, this whole thing has been. So, it's great that people are anxious to get out there, and it must be nice to get out there and create and get ready to share your music with everybody else. And you definitely have something to how did you feel about winning an award for What happened to Stephanie?
Oh, it was incredibly rewarding and continues to be, and has really given me, the courage and desire to keep going with it and with these other projects.
You
Yeah.
gonna do another animated one?
We may. I'm thinking about continuing the story of what happened to Stephanie.
I'd
So
like to see where that
stay
goes.
tuned. Yeah, we're working on a sequel.
A sequel. Well, the animation was really, really good. So, and you don't always get that when you get a short video. But this was fantastic. So, yeah, I got to share that out with some people because I think others have got to see this. So I'm going to put
I'm
that
so
out
glad
there.
you like it.
I did love it. I did love it. Actually, I was surprised by it because sometimes I have pre-notions of what I'm in for, and that just blew me away. When I watched that. I like this. Mike said short film, but I don't recall him saying animation, and
Ah,
just the colors and everything just kind of lifted off there. So I was like, I like that. So it was a great job. Anything else you want to plug and promote before we close off?
no, I mean, just, enter the world of Strictly Elizabeth. We're in this next new chapter of things,
Hmm.
and I'm really excited about getting out there with contemporary construction.
Temporary construction. Well, I hope there won't be temporary construction with COVID. We want that thing completely sealed off out. Folks, check out temporary construction. Check out Strictly Elizabeth. That's at strictlyelizabeth.com. Did I get that right?
That's right.
Okay. And support the arts and check out whatever happened to Stephanie. It was wonderful having you come on here today. I hope this was good for you. This was something interesting for me. It's not every day I get a musician that's dabbled in animation and what you've done. So this was different. You're very unique. You're very creative. I think that those are the strengths you should fall on as you continue on with your career.
Cool. I appreciate that. Thanks.
All right. Well, you have yourself a wonderful day. God bless you and keep creating.
Thanks. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.